A fateful day. It was a crisp autumn morning in the bustling city of Atlanta. The leaves had begun to turn shades of gold and crimson, casting a warm glow over the streets. For Marcus, a 32-year-old graphic designer, this day felt like any other. He had recently been laid off from his job at a prominent marketing firm, and the weight of uncertainty hung heavily on his shoulders. As he walked through the park, he reflected on his life. His dreams of climbing the corporate ladder now seemed distant. Marcus had always been passionate about his work. He loved creating visual stories that resonated with audiences. But after being let go by the company's new CEO, Angela Thompson, he found himself questioning his worth and future. Angela was known for her sharp business acumen and no-nonsense approach, but Marcus had always felt that her leadership style lacked empathy. As he strolled past the vibrant trees, lost in thought, he heard the distant sound of screeching tires. His heart raced as he turned to see a car swerving dangerously close to the sidewalk. Before he could react, it crashed into a lamppost with a deafening thud, metal crumpling upon impact. The accident. Without thinking, Marcus sprinted toward the wreckage. The sight was chaotic. Smoke billowed from the engine, and shards of glass littered the ground. He reached the driver's side door, which hung precariously on its hinges. Inside, a woman was slumped over the steering wheel, unconscious. "Hey, can you hear me?" Marcus shouted, trying to shake her awake. Panic surged through him as he assessed her condition. Blood trickled down her forehead, and her breathing was shallow. He quickly checked for signs of life. She was still alive but needed help urgently. With adrenaline coursing through his veins, Marcus pulled at the door with all his strength. It creaked and groaned, but wouldn't budge. He glanced around for help, but saw only a few bystanders frozen in shock. "Someone call 911!" he yelled desperately. The rescue determined not to give up. Marcus took a deep breath and summoned every ounce of strength he had left. He planted his feet firmly on the ground and pulled again with all his might. This time, the door gave way just enough for him to reach inside. "Ma'am, I'm here to help you," he said softly as he carefully unbuckled her seatbelt. He could see her eyes fluttering open briefly before closing again. She was fading fast. Just then, another bystander, a tall man with a muscular build, rushed over to assist him. Together they managed to pull her from the wreckage and lay her gently on the grass beside the road. "Is she breathing?" the man asked urgently. "I think so," Marcus replied, kneeling beside her and checking her pulse again. "But we need to keep her awake until help arrives." He leaned closer to her face and spoke firmly yet gently. "Hey, stay with us. Help is coming." A glimpse of hope. As they waited for emergency services to arrive, Marcus couldn't shake off an unsettling feeling in his gut. He glanced at her face. Despite her injuries, there was something familiar about her features that tugged at his memory. Suddenly, sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder as they approached. Relief washed over him as paramedics jumped out of their ambulance and rushed toward them with equipment in hand. "Step back, we've got this," one of them instructed as they took over care of the woman. Marcus stepped aside, but couldn't help but watch intently as they worked swiftly to stabilize her condition. He felt an overwhelming sense of helplessness mixed with pride. He had saved a life today. The unveiling. Once she was loaded onto a stretcher and wheeled into the ambulance, Marcus stood back, heart racing from both adrenaline and concern. He watched as they closed the doors and drove away, leaving him standing in shock amidst the chaos. As he turned to leave, he noticed a small crowd gathering around him, people murmuring praises for his bravery. But just then, someone called out from behind him, "Hey, are you okay?" It was a woman's voice filled with genuine concern. Marcus turned around only to be met with an unexpected sight. Angela Thompson herself stood there among the onlookers, having witnessed everything unfold from across the street. His heart sank as recognition hit him like a ton of bricks. This was not just any woman. This was the CEO who had fired him just months ago. the very person who had stripped away his livelihood without a second thought. Internal conflict. A wave of emotions surged through Marcus, anger mixed with confusion and disbelief. How could fate be so cruel? Here he was, having just saved someone's life, only to discover it was someone who had caused him so much pain. Angela approached him cautiously. Her expression was one of gratitude, but also concern as she took in his reaction. "Thank you for what you did," she said earnestly, her voice trembling slightly. Marcus felt torn between resentment and compassion. "You don't need to thank me," he replied curtly, trying to mask his feelings beneath a facade of indifference. But deep down, he knew that this moment would change everything. Their lives were now intertwined in ways neither could have anticipated. The aftermath of chaos. As the ambulance sped away, Marcus stood frozen in place, his mind racing. The adrenaline that had propelled him into action began to fade, replaced by a wave of confusion and disbelief. He had just saved a life, but the life he had saved belonged to the very person who had shattered his professional dreams. The crowd around him buzzed with conversations, snippets of praise mixed with shock. "Did you see that? He just jumped right in," one bystander exclaimed. Others nodded in agreement, their eyes wide with admiration. But Marcus felt detached from it all. The accolades felt hollow when weighed against the turmoil within him. "Hey, are you all right?" A voice broke through his thoughts. It was the tall man who had helped him pull Angela from the wreckage. His name tag read David, and he looked genuinely concerned. "I'm fine," Marcus replied, though he knew it wasn't true. "Just processing everything." David studied him for a moment, then nodded knowingly. "It's a lot to take in. You did an incredible thing back there. Not everyone would have acted so quickly." Marcus offered a weak smile, grateful for the acknowledgement, but still grappling with his emotions. "I just did what anyone would do," he said, though deep down he knew that wasn't entirely accurate. A moment of reflection. As the crowd began to disperse, Marcus felt a strange sense of isolation wash over him. He had been thrust into a heroic role, yet he couldn't shake off the bitterness that lingered from his experience with Angela. He turned away from the scene, needing to escape the weight of the moment. He walked through the park, where autumn leaves crunched beneath his feet. The beauty of nature around him felt at odds with his internal chaos. He recalled his last day at work, the coldness in Angela's eyes as she delivered the news of his termination. It had felt like a punch to the gut, leaving him reeling and questioning his abilities. "Why did it have to be her?" he muttered under his breath as he found a bench and sat down heavily. He pulled out his phone and stared at it blankly, contemplating whether to call someone, his friends or family, but decided against it. He needed time alone to process what had just happened. The call. Just as he was about to get up and head home, his phone buzzed in his pocket. It was a message from an unknown number. "Is this Marcus? I heard about what happened today." His heart raced as he read the message again, trying to decipher who could be reaching out to him now. With cautious fingers, he replied, "Yes, this is Marcus. Who is this?" The response came quickly. "It's Angela's assistant, Sarah. Angela's in the hospital and would like to speak with you." Marcus felt a rush of emotions. Anger, confusion, and an odd sense of obligation all collided within him. He typed back, "Why would she want to talk to me?" "She wants to thank you personally for saving her life," Sarah replied. Marcus stared at the screen for what felt like an eternity before finally typing, "I'll think about it." He hit send and tossed his phone aside, overwhelmed by conflicting feelings. A visit to the hospital. After much deliberation and despite his better judgment, Marcus found himself standing outside Atlanta General Hospital later that afternoon. The sterile environment filled him with anxiety. He took a deep breath before stepping inside. He approached the reception desk and announced himself to a nurse who looked up from her computer screen. I'm here to see Angela Thompson, he said hesitantly. Are you family? She asked without looking up. No, he replied, feeling awkward under her scrutinizing gaze. Then I'm afraid I can't let you in, she said flatly. Just then, Sarah appeared beside him with a warm smile that contrasted sharply with the nurse's demeanor. It's all right, I'll vouch for him, she said smoothly. The nurse hesitated, but eventually relented after Sarah flashed her ID badge. Fine, but keep it brief. A tense encounter. Marcus followed Sarah down the sterile white hallways until they reached Angela's room, a small space filled with medical equipment and soft beeping sounds. As they entered, Marcus's heart raced at the sight of Angela lying in bed, with her head bandaged and an IV drip attached to her arm. Thank you for coming, Sarah said gently, before stepping out of the room to give them privacy. Angela turned her head slowly toward Marcus as he approached her bedside. Her eyes were weary but filled with gratitude. Marcus, I owe you my life, she said softly. He stood there awkwardly for a moment before responding. You don't need to thank me, he replied curtly, crossing his arms defensively. I do need to thank you, she insisted, her voice firm yet shaky from pain medication. What you did today, it was incredible. Marcus clenched his jaw as memories flooded back. Her cold dismissal during their last encounter at work replayed in his mind like a broken record. Incredible? You fired me without a second thought just months ago, he shot back, unable to hide his resentment. Angela winced slightly at his words, but didn't look away from him. I know, and I regret that decision every day since, she admitted quietly. A moment of vulnerability. For a moment, silence enveloped them as Marcus processed her words. He could see genuine remorse etched on her face, a stark contrast to how she had been during their last meeting at work. I didn't realize how much pressure I was under until it was too late, Angela continued slowly. I made choices that hurt people, including you. Marcus shifted uncomfortably on his feet. Part of him wanted to hear more, while another part wanted nothing more than to walk out of that room and never look back. You were right about my leadership style, Angela added after a pause. I've been so focused on results that I lost sight of what really matters. People. Her honesty surprised Marcus. It was not something he expected from someone like her, the woman who had wielded power over his career so ruthlessly. Finding common ground. What do you want from me? Marcus asked finally, feeling vulnerable himself in this moment of unexpected honesty. I want to make amends, she replied earnestly. I know I can't change what happened between us overnight, but I want to try, starting now. He studied her closely. There was sincerity in her eyes that made him hesitate for just a moment longer than he intended. How do you plan on doing that? He asked cautiously. I want you back at my company, she said without hesitation. I know I don't deserve your trust after everything, but I'm committed to changing things for the better. Marcus felt a mix of disbelief and intrigue at her proposal. Could things really change? Could they work together again after everything that had transpired? I need time to think about it, he finally said, after weighing his options carefully. Angela nodded slowly, as if accepting whatever decision he would make next. Her expression softened with understanding, rather than frustration or anger. A new beginning? As Marcus left her room later that day, he couldn't shake off the feeling that this encounter might mark a turning point. Not just for Angela, but also for himself. Perhaps there was hope for redemption after all. Perhaps they could find common ground amidst their past grievances. Walking out into the crisp evening air felt liberating. He took deep breaths, as if shedding layers of resentment, along with every step away from that hospital room. Each breath signaling potential new beginnings waiting on the horizon. A difficult decision. The following days were a whirlwind for Marcus. He found himself replaying the events of the accident and his conversation with Angela over and over in his mind. Each time he thought about it, he felt a mix of emotions: anger, confusion, and an unexpected flicker of hope. He spent hours contemplating her offer to return to the company. On one hand, it was an opportunity to reclaim his professional identity. On the other hand, it felt like a betrayal of everything he had felt after being let go. He had spent so much time building his self-worth outside of that job, only to be drawn back into the very environment that had caused him pain. Marcus decided to confide in his best friend Jamal. They met at their favorite coffee shop, a cozy place filled with the aroma of freshly brewed coffee and pastries. As they settled into a corner booth, Marcus couldn't help but feel a sense of comfort in Jamal's presence. "Man, you look like you've seen a ghost," Jamal said, raising an eyebrow as he stirred his coffee. "It's just... a lot has happened," Marcus replied, running a hand through his hair. "I saved Angela Thompson from that car accident." Jamal's eyes widened. "Wait, the CEO? The one who fired you?" "Yeah," Marcus said, sighing heavily. "And now she wants me to come back to the company." "Wow," Jamal said slowly, taking a sip of his drink. "That's a huge deal. What are you going to do?" "I don't know," Marcus admitted. "Part of me wants to say no just out of principle, but another part of me thinks it could be a fresh start." Jamal leaned back in his seat, contemplating Marcus's dilemma. "You have to think about what's best for you. Do you really believe she's changed? That she'll treat you differently this time?" The weight of trust. Marcus pondered Jamal's question. He had seen a glimpse of vulnerability in Angela during their conversation at the hospital, but could he trust that it was genuine? "I don't know if I can trust her," he finally said. "But I also don't want to close the door on an opportunity that could help me grow." "Then maybe you should give it a shot," Jamal suggested cautiously. "Just keep your guard up. Don't let her walk all over you again." As they continued their conversation over coffee, Marcus felt a sense of clarity beginning to form amidst the chaos in his mind. Perhaps returning to the company could be more than just about Angela. It could be about reclaiming his own narrative. The meeting. A few days later, after much deliberation and encouragement from Jamal, Marcus decided to meet with Angela again, this time in her office at the marketing firm. He arrived early, standing outside the sleek glass building that had once been his workplace, but now felt foreign. As he stepped inside and made his way to her office, memories flooded back: the hustle and bustle of co-workers, brainstorming sessions filled with laughter and creativity, and the day everything changed when he received that dreaded email. Angela greeted him with a warm smile as he entered her office. She looked more composed than he remembered. Her bandages were gone, replaced by a fresh sense of determination in her demeanor. "Thank you for coming," she said sincerely as she gestured for him to take a seat. "Thanks for having me," Marcus replied cautiously as he settled into the chair across from her. A new vision. "I've been thinking a lot about our last conversation," Angela began, her tone earnest. "I want to create an environment where people feel valued, not just as employees, but as individuals." Marcus listened intently as she outlined her vision for the company moving forward, a place where collaboration thrived and employees were encouraged to voice their ideas without fear of judgment or repercussion. "I know I have a long way to go to earn your trust back," she continued, looking directly into his eyes. "But I'm committed to making changes, not just for you, but for everyone at this company." He studied her face carefully. There was sincerity in her gaze that made him hesitate. "What exactly are you proposing?" he asked. "I want you to help me reshape our team culture," she replied confidently. "You have valuable insights and creativity that we desperately need right now." The proposal. Marcus felt a mix of excitement and apprehension at her proposal. It was an enticing offer, one that would allow him to contribute meaningfully while also holding Angela accountable for her leadership style. "What would that look like?" he asked cautiously. We can start by implementing regular feedback sessions where everyone can share their thoughts openly, Angela suggested enthusiastically. I want us to focus on collaboration rather than competition. That sounds promising, Marcus admitted slowly. But how do I know this isn't just talk? How can I be sure things will actually change? Angela nodded thoughtfully at his skepticism. I understand your concerns completely, she said gently. That's why I'm willing to put everything on the table. Full transparency from my end. She paused for a moment before continuing. If you agree to come back, I'll make sure we have regular check-ins where we can discuss how things are going, both for you and for the team. A leap of faith. Marcus took a deep breath as he weighed her words carefully. The idea of being part of something transformative excited him, but could he truly trust Angela not to revert back to her old ways? I need time to think about it, he finally said, after what felt like an eternity. Of course, Angela replied, with understanding in her voice. Take all the time you need. As he left her office later that day, Marcus felt both exhilarated and anxious about what lay ahead. He knew this decision could change everything, not just for him, but also for Angela and their entire team. The turning point. In the days that followed, Marcus found himself reflecting deeply on what it meant to forgive and move forward. He began journaling his thoughts each night, writing down not only his fears, but also his hopes for what could come next. One evening, while writing in his journal at home, he recalled moments from their past, the laughter they shared during team meetings and even brief conversations about life outside work before everything changed so drastically. He realized that while Angela had made mistakes, and serious ones at that, people were capable of growth if given the chance. Embracing change. Finally, after much contemplation and encouragement from Jamal, who had become his sounding board throughout this process, Marcus decided it was time to take that leap of faith. He sent an email to Angela. I'm willing to give it another shot. As soon as he hit send, a wave of relief washed over him, a sense of empowerment knowing he was taking control of his narrative rather than letting past grievances dictate his future, a new beginning. The next few weeks were filled with meetings focused on reshaping company culture, a collaborative effort between Marcus and Angela that began transforming not only their working relationship but also the entire atmosphere within the office. They implemented new initiatives based on open communication, regular brainstorming sessions where every voice mattered, and gradually began seeing positive changes among their colleagues who felt more engaged than ever before. Marcus found joy in reconnecting with former co-workers who had also been affected by Angela's previous leadership style. Together they forged stronger bonds built on mutual respect rather than fear or competition. Moving forward. Together. As months passed by under this new structure led by both Marcus and Angela working side by side towards common goals, their dynamic shifted from one defined by conflict towards collaboration rooted in understanding. One afternoon during lunch break at their favorite cafe nearby, a spot they often frequented during team outings, Angela turned towards Marcus with an expression filled with gratitude. I couldn't have done this without you, she said sincerely, as they shared stories over sandwiches and coffee breaks filled with laughter echoing through cozy corners around them. Their bond growing stronger each day spent together, navigating uncharted waters together, hand in hand towards brighter horizons ahead, filled with possibilities yet untold waiting, just around every corner, waiting patiently until they arrived there together, ready to embrace whatever came next, side by side, united against whatever challenges lay ahead. Waiting patiently until they arrived there together, ready to embrace whatever came next, side by side, united against whatever challenges lay ahead, waiting patiently until they arrived there together, ready to embrace whatever came next, side by side, united against whatever challenges lay ahead, waiting patiently until they arrived there together, ready to embrace whatever came next, side by side, united against whatever challenges lay ahead, waiting patiently until they arrived there together. Ready to embrace whatever came next. Side by side, united against whatever challenges lay ahead, waiting patiently until they arrived there together. Ready to embrace whatever came next. Side by side, united against whatever challenges lay ahead, waiting patiently until they arrived there together. Ready to embrace whatever came next. Side by side, united against whatever challenges lay ahead, waiting patiently until they arrived there together. Ready to embrace whatever came next. Side by side, united against whatever challenges lay ahead, waiting patiently until they arrived there together. Ready to embrace whatever came next. Side by side, united against whatever challenges lay ahead, waiting patiently until they arrived there together. Ready to embrace whatever came next. Side by side, united against whatever challenges lay ahead, waiting patiently until they arrived there together. Ready to embrace whatever came next. Side by side, united against whatever challenges lay ahead, waiting patiently until they arrived there together. Ready to embrace whatever came next. Side by side, united against whatever challenges lay ahead, waiting patiently until they arrived there together, ready to embrace whatever came next. Side by side, united against whatever challenges lay ahead, waiting patiently until they arrived there together, ready to embrace whatever came next. Side by side, united against whatever challenges lay ahead, waiting patiently until they arrived there together, ready to embrace whatever came next. Side by side, united against whatever challenges lay ahead, waiting patiently until they arrived there together, ready to embrace whatever came next. Side by side, united against whatever challenges lay ahead, waiting patiently until they arrived there together, ready to embrace whatever came next. Side by side, united against whatever challenges lay ahead, waiting patiently until they arrived there together, ready to embrace whatever came next. A new chapter. As the weeks turned into months, Marcus and Angela worked tirelessly to reshape the culture at their marketing firm. What had started as a tumultuous relationship forged in conflict began to blossom into a partnership built on mutual respect and understanding. They held regular team meetings, where everyone was encouraged to share ideas, voice concerns, and celebrate successes together. Marcus found himself thriving in this new environment. He embraced his role not just as a designer, but as a leader who could influence positive change. The creative energy in the office was palpable. Colleagues who had once felt stifled by Angela's previous management style were now engaged and enthusiastic about their work. One afternoon, as they prepared for a major presentation to potential clients, Marcus and Angela sat together in her office reviewing their strategy. The walls were adorned with vibrant artwork created by employees, a stark contrast to the sterile decor that had once dominated the space. "I can't believe how far we've come," Angela said, her eyes shining with pride. "This is exactly what I envisioned when I decided to make changes." Marcus nodded, feeling a sense of accomplishment swell within him. "It really feels like we're building something special here," he replied. "I never thought I'd say this, but I'm glad I gave this another shot." Facing challenges together. However, not everything was smooth sailing. As they prepared for the presentation, they faced unexpected challenges. A key team member fell ill just days before the meeting, leaving them short-staffed and scrambling to fill the gaps. "We can't let this derail us," Angela said firmly as they gathered the team for an emergency meeting. "We need to rally together and support each other." Marcus watched as she addressed the team with confidence and empathy, encouraging everyone to step up and contribute their strengths. "Let's divide the tasks based on what each of us does best," he suggested. "We can do this if we work together." The team responded with enthusiasm. It was clear that they felt empowered by the collaborative culture that had been nurtured over the past few months. Everyone pitched in, working late nights and weekends to ensure they were prepared for the presentation. The presentation day. On the day of the presentation, Marcus felt a mix of excitement and nerves as he stood in front of a room full of potential clients. Angela stood beside him, her presence reassuring as they shared their vision for how their firm could elevate their brand. Today is about showcasing not just our skills, but also our commitment to collaboration, Angela began confidently. We believe that great ideas come from diverse perspectives, and that's what sets us apart. As Marcus took his turn presenting, he felt a surge of confidence that he hadn't experienced in a long time. He spoke passionately about their innovative strategies and how they had transformed their internal culture to foster creativity. The clients listened intently, nodding along as he shared success stories from recent campaigns that showcased their new approach. By the end of the presentation, it was clear that they had made a strong impression. A moment of triumph. Afterward, as they walked out of the conference room, Marcus couldn't contain his excitement. "I think we nailed it," he exclaimed, high-fiving Angela. "I knew we could do it if we worked together," she replied with a smile that lit up her face. Just then, one of the clients approached them with a big grin. "You two have something special here," she said enthusiastically. "We'd love to partner with you." As they celebrated with their team back at the office later that day, Marcus felt an overwhelming sense of belonging wash over him. This was more than just a job. It was a community, a place where everyone's contributions mattered. Reflecting on growth. In quiet moments after work, Marcus often found himself reflecting on how far he had come since that fateful day when he saved Angela's life. He had gone from feeling lost and undervalued to finding purpose in his work and forming meaningful relationships with his colleagues. One evening, while sitting at home with his journal open before him, he wrote, "Sometimes it takes a crisis to reveal our true selves." He realized that both he and Angela had undergone significant transformations, not just as professionals, but as individuals who understood the importance of empathy and collaboration. A personal connection. As their professional relationship deepened, so did their personal connection. They began spending time outside of work, grabbing dinner or attending art exhibits together. With each shared experience, Marcus discovered layers to Angela's personality that he hadn't seen before. The artist within her who loved creativity beyond marketing strategies. One night at an art gallery opening in downtown Atlanta, Marcus found himself captivated by one particular painting, a vibrant piece filled with swirling colors that seemed to dance across the canvas. "What do you think?" Angela asked as she joined him in front of it. "It's beautiful," he replied thoughtfully. "It feels alive." She smiled at his response. "I love how art can evoke such strong emotions," she said softly. "It reminds me of how important it is to express ourselves, both personally and professionally." An unexpected confession. As they continued discussing various pieces in the gallery, Marcus felt an urge to share something deeper with her, something he had kept bottled up since their initial encounter after the accident. "Angela," he began hesitantly, "I want you to know that saving your life changed mine in ways I never expected." She turned to him with curiosity etched on her face. "How so?" "I realized how important it is to forgive, not just for others, but for ourselves too," he confessed. "I spent so much time holding on to anger after you fired me, but now I see that life is too short for grudges." Angela looked touched by his words. Her expression softened as she reached out to touch his arm gently. "Thank you for saying that," she replied quietly. "I've learned so much from you too, about humility and understanding what true leadership means." A shared future. As they stood there surrounded by art and laughter echoing around them from other guests mingling nearby, Marcus felt an undeniable connection growing between them, a bond forged through adversity, but strengthened by mutual respect and admiration. In that moment, under soft gallery lights illuminating vibrant colors swirling around them, he knew this was only the beginning of something beautiful, not just within their professional lives, but also perhaps something more personal waiting patiently beneath surface ready, emerge into full bloom if given chance. Flourish together side by side, navigating uncharted waters ahead, filled possibilities yet untold waiting just around every corner, waiting patiently until arrived there together. Ready embrace whatever came next. Side by side united against whatever challenges lay ahead, waiting patiently until arrived there together. Ready embrace whatever came next. Side by side united against whatever challenges lay ahead, waiting patiently until arrived there together. Ready embrace whatever came next, side by side, united against whatever challenges lay ahead, waiting patiently until arrived there together. Ready embrace whatever came next, side by side united against whatever challenges lay ahead, waiting patiently until arrived there together. Ready embrace whatever came next, side by side, united against whatever challenges lay ahead, waiting patiently until arrived there together. Ready embrace whatever came next, side by side united against whatever challenges lay ahead.